Minister said entry to Vietnam must be closely controlled. With eye on China, Japan's Prime Minister seeks tighter ties with Vietnam and Indonesia. Vietnam hosts the ASEAN Smart City Summit 2020. Da Nang's tourism targets Singaporean markets after pandemic. Hello, welcome to FBNC News Weekly. I'm Trinh Lê. Now we begin with the latest updates about the coronavirus outbreak in Vietnam. Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc on October 19th called for close control over entry into Vietnam at all border gates so the country can fulfill the twin goals of fighting COVID-19 and posting socio-economic development. The Prime Minister also asked ministries, agencies and localities to remain vigilant and strictly comply with prevention measures to avert a new outbreak. They were also directed to properly manage quarantine facilities, especially those providing paid services. Relevant units were assigned to ask short-term visitors to limit their use of public services, such as karaoke and bars, and refrain from festivals. The Health Ministry must regularly monitor efforts at hospitals and medical establishments, propose immigration management models, and offer periodic COVID-19 testing to staff at border gates and airports and others in regular contact with foreigners. People in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City were also urged to wear masks when outdoors or on public vehicles. The Ministry of Transport, Health and Foreign Affairs are responsible for creating favorable conditions for welcoming overseas Vietnamese home, while the Ministry of Labor, Invalids and Social Affairs and the Government Office will tackle difficulties in providing relief aid to those hit by the pandemic. Since April, 221 flights have brought more than 46,000 Vietnamese citizens home, with 212 of them on 43 flights testing positive. Japan's new leader aimed to beef up security ties when he visited Vietnam and Indonesia last week amid concerns about Beijing's growing assertiveness, but did not steer clear of the harsh anti-China rhetoric used by the U.S. counterparts. Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga, whose resume is scant on diplomatic experience, followed in predecessor Shinzo Abe's footsteps by making the two Southeast Asian nations the destination for his first overseas trip since taking office in September. Suga visited Vietnam, chair of the 10-member ASEAN, and Indonesia, its biggest economy, on a 4-day trip from Sunday, October 18. Japan must balance its deep economic ties with China with security concerns, including Beijing's push to assert claims over disputed East China Sea isles. Abe oversaw an improvement in ties, but some ruling party members want a tougher stance. ASEAN members, many of which have territorial fields with China in vital South China Sea waterways, are wary of alienating a big economic partner and reluctant to become entrapped in an intense confrontation between the United States and China. Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc addressed the plenary session on the ASEAN Smart City Summit 2020 in Hanoi on October 22nd. The event was held by the Party Central Committee's Economic Commission and the Ministry of Construction. As an active member of the ASEAN Smart City Network, asean, Vietnam has built policies and made efforts to develop smart cities, considering this one of the 3 key tasks in the national digital transformation process. Addressing the plenary session of the ASEAN Smart City Summit and Expo 2020 in Hanoi on October 22nd, the Prime Minister said as the chairman of ASEAN in 2020, Vietnam virtually hosted the ASEAN's 3rd conference in July, which discussed action plans to realize the building of smart cities and strengthen cooperation with partners in the spirit of a cohesive and responsive ASEAN. Smart urban development is really a big game that needs to be joined by many players with vision and resources towards realizing the goal of happiness, comprehensive human development, environmental protection, and sustainable development of urban ecosystems, the Vietnamese government leader affirmed. Vietnam defines smart and sustainable urban development as a breakthrough direction to contribute to improving the national competitiveness. He underlined that smart city development must be closely linked with strong information infrastructure and e-government development towards a digital government. It also needs to focus on promoting the added value brought about by new technologies and techniques, as well as the distinctive cultural identities of ASEAN member nations. Besides, it is necessary to extract the strong participation of the private sector in boosting innovation and creativity. The Prime Minister asked for continued promotion of scientific, strategic, and high-quality human resources development programs, as well as harmoniously linking innovation and digital transformation programs with sustainable smart city urban development orientations. A 10-year healthcare program for the elderly will start in Vietnam next year as part of the government's response to the country's fast-aging population. Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc has approved the healthcare program, under which authorities at all levels will be required to develop, planning and arrange funding for elderly healthcare by 2025. This funding will be maintained until at least 2030.
Over the next 5 years, at least 70% of elderly people age over 60, and their caregivers will be informed about the programs and their right to care. That percentage is expected to increase by 85% by 2030. Under the programs, at least 70% of elderly people across the country will have medical checkups once a year. By 2025, 95% of the elderly will have health records, with that figure rising to 100% over the following 5 years. Thanks to improved health records, it is expected that 70% of elderly people who have non-communicable diseases will be detected and treated by 2025. All elderly people who require care will receive the support they need from their families or the communities by 2025. Intergenerational self-help clubs and other kinds of healthcare clubs will also be set up as part of the programs.
Vietnam ranked 12 out of 26 countries and territories, up 1 place from a year earlier in the Asian Power Index 2020 conducted by the Lowy Institute, an Australian independent and non-partisan international policy think tank. Vietnam performs best in diplomatic influence measure, where it places 9th, up by 3 spots from last year, with its reputation strengthened by the competent handling of the coronavirus pandemic. The country also saw notable improvements in its score for economic capability and defense networks. The country exerts more influence in the region than expected, given its available resources, as indicated by the country's positive power gap score, according to the Lowy Institute. Last year's rankings also saw Vietnam climb 1 place in the Asian Power Index due to its major achievements in the economic and human resource development. The 5 highest ranked countries in the Asia Power Index 2020 remains unchanged from last year, in which the US is considered the largest power in the region, followed by China, Japan, India and Russia. Now you're watching FBNC News. The central city of Da Nang, in coordination with the Vietnamese Trade Office in Singapore, has held an online seminar to introduce potential for tourism development and tourist products of the city to Singaporean markets.
The event, taking place on October 19, simultaneously connected participants in Vietnam, Singapore and Malaysia. During the seminar, Da Nang tourism businesses presented their strengths and adaptability measures to promote post-pandemic recovery. Head of the Vietnamese Trade Office in Singapore, Trần Thu Quỳnh, said the office will continue to help promote Da Nang tourism destinations in Singapore by arranging for the cities to publish information on the tourism products on Singaporean magazines. To support Da Nang tourism sector in addressing difficulties caused by the pandemic, the Municipal Department of Tourism has maintained and expanded connections with international markets through virtual meetings and conferences.
As part of the series of activities honoring Vietnamese Women's Day, on October 20th, the French consulate in Ho Chi Minh City held a seminar to commemorate 100 years of feminism in Vietnam. The event looked back on the changing development of Vietnamese women over the past century while promoting the importance of women to the international community.
The seminar saw the participations of many speakers who has been working relentlessly to protect the values and rights of women, such as writer Ngân, historians Trần Phương, and the participations of many other groups of audiences.
Bonsoir, c'est parce que pour la France, la promotion de l'égalité homme-femme dans le monde est l'une des priorités. Et donc, au Vietnam, les femmes sont souvent très fortes, ont des positions.
In early 2021, France will coordinate with the United Nations to hold a conference on protections of human rights in the world. Vietnam is proud to be one of the beautiful images in the campaign to protect the equal rights and common development of Vietnamese women in this event.
On October 15th, Forbes Vietnam held a ceremony to honor the 50 best-listed companies in Vietnam for this year, which include big names such as Vingroup, Masan Group, HD Bank, Techcombank, Vietcombank, ACB, and Hoa Phát Group. According to Forbes Vietnam, the list of 50 best-listed companies in Vietnam 2020 marks the rise of the group of stocks that are defensive or less directly affected by the pandemic, such as pharmaceuticals, construction, consumer goods, materials, and finance. Companies on the list this year have a strong foundation, not only having good business results in 2019, but also expecting to be resilient in the context of Vietnam's economy facing the most challenges in the past 10 years. Forbes Vietnam's list of the 8 best companies recorded new records, with the total profit after tax of the companies on the list reached more than 183 trillion Vietnam đồng, an increase of 8.7% compared to the list published in last year, and also the highest ever. Now that has wrapped up FBNC News for this week. Thank you for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next time. Goodbye.